We're number one. We're number one. Isn't it satisfying to win? To have backed the right horse? To prevail in a contest of wits, will, or athletic prowess? I am one of 5 very competitive siblings, and even to this day, a family Scrabble game is serious business. Viewed through this lens, the Judeo-Christian tradition has fallen on hard times. Globally, as it faces threat and persecution from violent fanaticism intent on its eradication, but also locally, as it has been pushed to the edge of society by those who believe it's already passed into irrelevancy. Which makes our morning text all the sweeter. It's a story from a time in Israel's history when its covenant faith was losing to the native religions in the promised land to which God had called them. Their king, Ahab, had married notorious Jezebel and had converted to the religion of Baal, supreme god of the Canaanites, lord of sun and storm and fertility. God's prophet Elijah had incurred Ahab's wrath by calling him out for idolatry, and the king retorted by calling Elijah the troubler of Israel. It was all a hot mess until Elijah proposed a contest to settle the matter once and for all. Listen. So King Ahab sent to all the Israelites and assembled the prophets at Mount Carmel. Elijah then came near to all the people and said, "How long will you go limping with 2 different opinions? If the Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him." The people did not answer him a word. Then Elijah said to the people, even I only, am left as a prophet of the Lord. But Baal's prophets number 450. Let 2 bulls be given to us. Let them choose 1 bull for themselves, cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, but put no fire on it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood, but put no fire to it. Then you will call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord. The God who answers by fire is indeed God. All the people answered, "Well spoken." Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose for yourselves 1 bull and prepare it first, for you are many. Then call on the name of your God, but put no fire on it." So they took the bull that was given them, prepared it, and called on the name of Baal from morning until noon, crying, "Oh, Baal, answer us!" But there was no voice and no answer. They limped about the altar they had made. At noon, Elijah mocked them, saying, "Cry aloud! Surely he is a god. Either he is meditating, or he has wandered away, or he's on a journey, or perhaps he's asleep and must be awakened." Then they cried aloud, and as was their custom, they cut themselves with swords and lances until the blood gushed out over them. As midday passed, they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation. But there was no answer, no voice, and no response. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come closer." and all the people came closer to him. First, he repaired the altar of the Lord that had been thrown down. Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be your name. With the stones he built an altar in the name of the Lord. Then he made a trench around the altar, large enough to contain 2 measures of seed. Next, he put the wood in order, cut the bull in pieces, and laid it on the wood. He said, Fill 4 jars with water and pour it on the burnt offering and on the wood. Then he said, Do it a second time. And they did it a second time. Again he said, Do it a third time. And they did it a third time, so that the water ran all around the altar and filled the trench also with water. At the time of the offering of the oblation, the prophet Elijah came near and said, O Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and I am your servant, and I have done all these things at your bidding. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, so that this people may know that you, O God, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering, the wood, the stones, and the dust, and even licked up all the water that was in the trench. When all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, The Lord indeed is God. The Lord indeed is God. Do you love this story as much as I do? Its rich detail heightens the drama. Clearly, the reporter is biased toward Israel's God, and he portrays the prophets of Baal as deluded buffoons, cutting and slashing themselves to get their unresponsive God to light the fire already. When Elijah mockingly says, Perhaps he has wandered away, the phrase actually means, perhaps he's taking a bathroom break. By contrast, Elijah makes the contest even more heroic by soaking the altar with gallons of water. Then, with a single invocation, fire consumes bull, wood, altar, and even the water. Hurrah for the good guys! And the response is immediate and unanimous as the people bow and exclaim, The Lord indeed is God. The Lord indeed is God. And that's where the lectionary committee draws the curtain on the text. Faith has triumphed, and the people have renewed their loyalty to the one true God. Except the story doesn't actually end there. One final verse tells what happened next. Elijah said to them, Seize the prophets of Baal. Do not let one of them escape. Then they seized them, and Elijah brought them down to the Wadi Kishon and killed them there. Oh, Elijah. Why was it not enough to have won a decisive victory and proved beyond doubt the superiority of powerful Yahweh? Why were you so quick to eliminate the competition completely and obliterate its representatives. It's chilling to think that God demanded this, and makes me wonder whether it had more to do with political expediency than religious devotion. The Israelites had been a band of freed slaves when they took possession of the Promised Land. There were skirmishes and outright warfare with the tribes and ethnic groups already inhabiting that land. And to build a national identity, they had to distinguish themselves and their God from all the rest. Many of the rules and laws outlined in the first books of the Bible concern keeping themselves separate and pure from surrounding religions and cultural practices as a way of carving out a distinct identity. So perhaps it was not God who wanted or needed this clarity, but the nation needed it. But so it was, and so it has been throughout human history, into the present. From the Crusades to the Holocaust, to white supremacy movements and contemporary jihadists, no hands are entirely clean from the blood of their opponents. The justification for such violence takes competition beyond whose religion is best to a perspective that the battle is between good and evil, and the very survival of truth and possibly humanity itself is at stake. The Shalom Hartman Institute in Jerusalem is dedicated to bringing Jews and Muslims together in search of mutual understanding and tolerance. Its founder, Rabbi David Hartman, reframes the question that is at stake in interfaith relationships. He writes, "Is single-minded fanaticism a necessity for passion and religious survival? Or can we have a multilingual view of God? A notion that God is not exhausted in one religious path." Now, before we answer that, let's consider the world in which we find ourselves today. In some ways, smaller and more connected through global communications and interdependent economics, and in some ways, more profoundly separate because of disparate wealth and power distribution, competing views of the role of culture in post-modernity, and the surge of nativist and fundamentalist perspectives. What would our world look like if it were a village of 1,000 people? We would be 329 Christians, 174 Muslims, 131 Hindus, 61 Buddhists, 52 animists, 3 Jews, 34 members of religions such as Sikhs, Jains, and Baha'is, and 216 without any religion. The diversity of religions worldwide suggests to some that God, in fact, is multilingual, and the human quest to connect with the transcendent has uncovered many roads toward that end. At the very least, we can acknowledge the need for greater understanding about the multitude of religions in their beliefs and devotion. And friends, I think that means learning about a religion from ordinary practitioners and not extremists. I don't want Robert Deere or David Duke to be a spokesman for the God I know in Jesus Christ as one who includes and loves without conditions or limits. Do we doubt that Central's friends Monir Lutton, former chair of the Abrahamic Initiative, or Rabbi Joe Black of Temple Emmanuel desire anything less from those who represent their respective faiths? Truth is, every faith tradition has texts like this one of the contest on Mount Carmel, which read literally can be taken to authorize intolerance of the other, violence, and a narrow view of divine attention. But friends, every faith tradition also has texts that emphasize an expansive view of the Holy One's universal concern, and a call to show hospitality, not hostility, toward the stranger. Perhaps today the most significant choice is to decide whether harsh or generous texts will dominate in our worldview and shape our interactions with the other. So, does that mean we cast Elijah and this thrilling story into the wastebasket because it's no longer relevant in a tolerant, pluralistic, and democratic society? Surprisingly, perhaps, I think the answer is no. There is a word for us here, and it's one with a competitive edge. The contest on Mount Carmel was prompted not simply by the existence of other religions, but by the expanded options those religions presented the people of Israel, chosen for exclusive worship of Yahweh. How long will you go limping with two different opinions? Elijah asked the people pointedly. This isn't so very different than the judgment spoken over the church millennia later, judgment based not on evil actions, but on inaction. You're neither cold nor hot, you're just lukewarm. And I, the Lord, am going to spit you out of my mouth. Or Jesus' test of faith we find in the Gospels. By your fruits they shall know you. If you don't commit to something, if you just go with the flow, dabble in this and that, sample here and there, you won't get very far, and you certainly won't go very deep. You'll live on the surface of a life in a very small pond. Elijah lays it out clearly. Choose. Decide whom you are going to follow and serve. Don't stay on the fence, but make a commitment. I heard a similar challenge from a very different source recently. In an interview on Colorado Public Radio, Missy Franklin was asked about her preparation for the upcoming Olympics, where she hopes to repeat her gold medal victories from the London Olympics 4 years ago. The interviewer asked her about the competition. Have you checked the speed in which they accomplish the races? What's your strategy going to be regarding those upcoming competitors? And Missy responded that her mind was fixed on her own performance and doing her very best. I'm competing with myself, she said, laughingly. Friends, with that same single-minded devotion, let us strive to walk the road of faith, illumined by the fire of God's love for everyone. Amen.